facilitate the policy dialogue among member states and also between academic and the practical field of work. For example, from UNESCO Headquarters, we have been launching and convening mobile learning week for 9 years continuously. Probably that's the longest international conference in this field. At the same time, over almost 20 years, at least more than 15 years from myself, we have supported more than 60 countries directly in terms of developing national digital learning policy. I personally participated and planned and trained more than 40 countries. And here are the 3 guidance we have developed. You know, as I said, we are the only one UN agency have developed the guidance for all the important topics in this area, including the guidelines for ICT education policy and master plan. It was released this year. Now it's already available in 2 languages. We are going to make it available in all the 6 EU languages. And last year, we released the AI and education guidance for policymakers and already made it in 7 languages. And also, I think even longer, in 2019, we published guidance on the development of OER policy. So, and this now is available in 3 languages. In a way that we are not developing these guidelines, close the door and develop them in office. All of them are developed based on our national support. You know, we support the country and we summarize the knowledge, and we publish the guidelines. So, and many of them are taking many years. For example, for this guidance, took us more than 5 years, even more than 6 years to develop. I think Shafika is one of the co-authors together with me. And based on this, we are also collecting good practice and good examples from the bottom-up approach. And we're collecting grassroots case studies and examples for all these areas. For example, for ICT education policy, we have a toolkit, and we also have a database of the largest number of national digital learning policies. And we also, from UNESCO, we have managing this ICT education prize for more than 12 years to almost 15 years. We have collected 26 prize-winning projects. Globally, every year we have only 2 prize-winning projects. So far, we have 26. And we are publishing also a case study on the prize-winning project. And for AI and education, over 3-4 years, we have published 2 compendiums, collecting more than 80 examples on AI and education. At the same time, last year, together with another speakers of this panel, Kelly, we conducted a survey on the global K-12 AI curriculum, and we published a report this year. And we call it a mapping of government in those AI curriculum. I will introduce the details later. And for OER, we also published a book called OER Policy, Cost, and Transformation. And we collected 15 case studies on national and institutional OER projects. And this publication probably is one of the largest cited publications in this field. So through this kind of case study and the tools, and we go back supporting the countries, meaning that if from the request, if you want to develop AI and education policy, UNESCO stand ready to support you, and not only technical support, but also, if possible, we can finance some workshops. And in the field of AI in education, we have been building our program over the last 4 or 5 years, and I can use this one page to summarize what we are doing. So from 2019, we have been convening international conference on AI in education for 3 years continuously. We have confirmed now that we will organize another one this year, later this year. So which means we are organizing international conference on AI education so far, at least for 4 years continuously. And for the key area, as we have said, we are fostering AI-ready policymakers through the instruments, through guidance, and also through workshop. And we are Arabic language-speaking country. We are planning another one for the Francophone countries, very largely for African countries, later this year. And at the same time, yesterday you must have listened to the presentation of the UNESCO's recommendation on ethics of AI. And based on that, we are developing ethical principle on AI education. At the same time, I will introduce what we are doing on the development of AI competency, especially for K-12 students. At the same time, we are also developing a publication on AI and the futures of learning. And we are planning to promote open algorithm and open source tools for public good. So that's what we are doing from 2 dimensions. So for the publication, just very, very quick flash about what we have published. You have the basic consensus on AI and education available in 6 UN language. We have the AI and education guidance for policymakers available in 6 UN language. And we published K-12 AI curriculum, as I mentioned, and now it's already available in English and Chinese. We are translating in other languages, and we have 2 compendium, and then we have 4 global best practice on AI and education selected from the prize from Brazil, Spain, Finland, and China. Based on this, my first part is that how we can develop the capacity of policymakers. We published this book called AI and Education Guidance for Policymakers. That's the main structure of this publication. We think that it's very important that we should summarize the AI essentials for policymakers because this is a new topic. Most of the policymakers in the education sector do not have basic knowledge about AI and do not have the knowledge of AI and education. So we would like to summarize the AI as the essentials for policymakers, and particularly to analyze the potentials and limitations of AI for education. And we summarize and define, we call it a human-AI collaboration. And then we also summarize the key areas and emerging practice in terms of the use of AI in education. But more specifically, is we present a kind of benefit and risk analysis of this emerging practice to the policymakers. And then we come and narrow down to the analysis of the potential and the challenge in leverage AI to achieve SDG for education 2030, and especially the challenge of leverage AI to achieve SDG 4. And based on this, we did a very quick policy review on the existing national AI strategy, especially the national strategy on AI and education. And we present a set of recommendations for policymakers in terms of how they should plan and implement AI and education policies. And by the end, we are promoting that we should, all the countries should define what we are developing in terms of the human development. In general, we are developing digital humanism, but the digital humanism being very different in Europe, in US, and in Africa. As Shafiq said, we should consider how we can decolonize the technology, especially the educational technology, especially for Africa. Actually, we are drafting a report on decolonizing education technology together with another professor from the UK, and we'll share with you if possible when it becomes available. And in terms of the AI and education for policymakers, through this publication, and we would like to ask 4 key policy questions to all the policymakers. How we can ensure ethical and equitable use of AI in education, especially for Africa. We need to ensure the equitable access to AI before we talk about the use of AI to promote equity in education. And before we put AI devices into classroom, we should ensure that we have the regulations and laws to make sure that the AI will be used in line with the ethical principles. Secondly, how AI can be used to deliver on fulfilled promise, especially in African continent. Before 2015, we had the EFA rules, but many countries, including African countries, did not deliver the promise of EFA. How AI can help us to deliver this unfulfilled promises? That's the priority. How AI can enable the learning and digital humanism we want for the future. And what are the AI literacy, AI skills needed for human-AI collaboration? Those are the 4 policy questions. Must cover these 4 areas. First of all, the governance and the regulations on the use of AI in education. That's the precondition. And then the cornerstone of the AI education policy is the competency. Because no country should wait for other countries to come to develop your population, your people's AI competency. And we must develop the AI competency by ourselves. And the use of AI, the development of AI tools for your country should be from your people. And to do this, the AI competency development is the cornerstone for all the policies. And then, as we said, all the policy in any country should, first of all, look backward to the unfulfilled promise in the education, to think how AI can help us, to be used as a common goal to deliver the unfulfilled promise in education. And then we all are now looking forward because UNESCO also published the report of the futures of education in 23rd of November 2021, last year. So everybody is talking about the futures of education. And in a way that we also need to think how AI can be used as a public good to support the futures of learning, futures of education we want and your people need in your country. So those are the four areas I believe any country should consider, no exception. And first of all, the regulation of the use of AI education. Yesterday, I believe you heard a lot about the recommendations on ethics of AI in education. Once again, was adopted on 23rd November in 2021. And in general, what we are talking about, the ethical issue, is only about this AI-based prediction and decision making, and the human behavior is affected by this prediction and decision. When it comes to education, we need to think how we can regulate the use of AI education. We need to move from a kind of data worship to data justice. Especially in education area, we should think the protection of the data privacy of the students, teachers, and parents, and the other stakeholders. And we also, as a country, we need to consider the data ownership and even the data sovereignty. At the same time, particularly in education area, we need to prevent the algorithm discrimination. The current discrimination is not with the behavior, but it's really deep rooted into the algorithm. We should prevent them and pick up them and then avoid them, including the gender bias and even the psychometric prediction. If we want to use AI tools for the examination, for assessment, we need to avoid this kind of discrimination. And at the same time, when we introduce tools into classroom, for example, these girls are wearing the AI headband. When we introduce these kind of tools, how we can regulate this kind of intrusive AI-powered tools? And then, more importantly, when we are using AI to facilitate learning analytics, and also we call it personalized learning, how we can promote the human agency. Humans should be more proactive and should be the ownership of the learning, not AI. And we should believe that. We should be aware that there's a lot of uncharted and hidden ethical issues. We need to keep alert of them and keep monitoring them. This workflow framework I designed to interpret the recommendation on aspects of AI. We need to think from three dimensions. The first one is the technology dimension, especially from the life cycle of AI system, how AI works behind our vision, including the production and storage of data, how data are produced, how we store them, and how we access them and control the data. Who are controlling the data? Who are controlling our data? And the most important when people are talking about data and algorithm-based decision making, how they make decisions, how they labeling the data, and the more important, and then the human AI interface, including the AI devices. We must, as I said, be alert that AI.
Apologies, Fengchun. My apologies. I've just been asked that we try and wrap up the session. So I'm really sorry.
I know.
So just to ask you to wrap up, please. Thank you.
I think we also need to think historical dimension, and from the other side, we need to think as a human. We have an individual human, society, and then as a sovereign state, and also we need to consider the environment and ecosystem. And with AI tools that are developed by African people and serving the African people. I just want to flash this slide for you. And then at the same time, we need to consider what we are developing for the future of the education. We need to be realistic about what we have from the AI tools. So far, all the AI tools basically are designed to address the low-skill task units in education, including the inclusive access, low-skill teaching, content profiling. And the so-called personalized learning did not happen. It's only the personalized of the content pushing. So we need to analyze what kind of high-order task unit we are targeting from education, from learning, and how we can develop the next generation of algorithm to to steer the use and the development of AI for education. The last one is I just want to quickly wrap up that for the development of AI competency, we need to take a humanistic value towards AI. First of all, we need to consider what are the AI literacy for all the individuals, for all the citizens, and then what are AI skills for the competitiveness of the countries, which means what are the advanced AI skills we want to develop to improve the competitiveness of the country. And for this purpose, we conducted a survey last year, as we said, and we published a report. And just want to quickly flash that, we found through the survey, only 11 countries have developed and endorsed AI curriculum, for K-12. There's no African country. I believe every country will catch up very, very fast, but so far, no African country informed us that you have developed and endorsed AI curriculum. From the government perspective, I know that a lot of commercial companies are promoting their AI curriculum, AI course in your African country. But unfortunately, so far, no African country has developed and endorsed K-12 AI curriculum. If you want to ask me to convey the last message to you, that's the last message I would like to convey to you. You should do it very early. And there's other 4 countries developed but not implemented yet. And we have this definition. I will not go to the detail. We're promoting the data literacy, algorithm literacy, but at the same time, we should move from AI literacy gradually to the advanced AI competency for your talent and for your country's competitiveness. And we have this definition about AI competency, including AI foundations, ethics, and understanding, using, and developing AI. We also have the definition of 9 subcategories. I will not go through the detail. And then we have the survey to summarize how the countries are allocated time to them, how they are implementing the AI competency curriculum. And then this is the key message I want to quickly share with you. And we need to move from the shell political slogan. Yesterday, you must listen a lot of slogan. AI is very important. We should develop AI competency. But look, no country developed curriculum to develop AI competency. We should move from the shell political slogans to curriculum practice. And many countries do not have a government validation. They allow the commercial provider to come, to push, to advocate their commercial AI course to schools, to your children. There's no country validation. We need to build a stronger country validation. And many companies said, you use our technology. Is the AI competency? No, it's only the skills of using their products. We should ensure an agnostic approach to the AI brand and AI technology. We need to build evidence base. I think Kelly will share more information. And then, most importantly, we should prepare our teachers, and especially to use the project-based learning in the AI curriculum. I want to really wrap up. This is my last slide. We are talking about digital transformation. Digital transformation is not a flying land from nowhere. It's built on the historical foundation, including the digitization of information, digitalization of the textbook, and then you move to digital transformation. You cannot move around the digital divide to jump into the digital transformation or to jump to the use of AI in your education. I think, but the business model can transform the use of AI. You need to think radically and more creatively how you want to change the business model of education and the delivery of learning. So with this, I want to summarize my presentation. And this is AI and education, also the digital learning policy. Feel free to write to me. We're ready to work with you. Thank you for your time, and also back to Shafika. Thank you, Shafika.